Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's BDF44. So I just got through watching the Lakers Jazz highlights, and you see the nasty face. I got the ugly face because I'm literally turning on the camera right after looking at those. It's the ugly face because we put it on the Utah Jazz real nicely in overtime tonight. So a couple things that stood out. First of all, Dennis Schroeder is the best average player in basketball. Simply the best average player in basketball. You don't get better than that on an average level. You just don't. He's in a very unique spot in his career in terms of in the comparison to the other players in the league because he's not like a star. You know what I mean? He's not a star, but he makes less mistakes than some of the players that are supposed to be tiered higher than him. I think he's not extraordinary at what he does, but he's extremely efficient. His motor is really, really, really good. He plays defense good. He plays offense good. He connects on most of the things that he tries to attempt. He doesn't take bad shots. His floaters are all, his floater package, layup package, all that stuff is A1. You're happy with him. And the only thing that's keeping him from being a star or a much higher tier player is just that he doesn't really necessarily affect wins. And it's a weird niche because there are guys out there who don't affect wins who get touted more so than him and may not be as good as him even so. So now when it's time for negotiations, he can't seem to get his deal done because of what I'm talking about. He is a player that's supposed to be considered average, but he's going to be more valuable than any average player in the league. He's going to see himself as a player who's a tier above that, and he's never going to get the money of that tier. So it's weird. It's a really weird space. He's probably one of only like several players in the league in his tier. It's only a couple players in the league that are in that little weird space that he's in. But because he's on a winning team right now, hopefully it can boost him some to get the money that he's asking for. I'd like to see him get it. You know, he's only been here for half a season, but I have been extremely pleased with him. And tonight, he helped us very much in winning this basketball game down the stretch rather. He was clutch. And you have to acknowledge how fantastic his fourth quarter and overtime play was. He was hitting shots. He was taking it upon himself to take the big shots and make the big shots. He was closing for the Los Angeles Lakers. He literally closed for us tonight. So I just want to give Dennis Schroeder all the praise in the world. I don't think he's probably going to spend more time with us than this season, but it has been a pleasure. Believe you me, I have enjoyed Dennis Schroeder's tenure as a Laker. That's the first thing I wanted to say. Second thing I wanted to say about this game was KCP and Andre Drummond played with each other for 4 years or something like that in Detroit, and it showed tonight. This was the best game that those two players probably played together since leaving Detroit, and Drummond gave us a lot tonight, and a lot of what I saw was him playing off of his old boy KCP. They have a unique synergy that we saw tonight to where Andre Drummond knows where KCP's spots are, and he can get him the ball in those spots. And that's something that we haven't had before. With respect to guys who've learned KCP's game, guys like LeBron James, they know him now. But what I'm saying is that particular inside-outside from the center to the shooting guard on this team, we haven't had that type of synergy before with KCP especially. You know, guys know him. I want to preface what I'm saying clearly. Our guys know one another. But when you have a guy who played with a guy for 4 years and they haven't played with each other in 4 years, now when they come back together, it's like it don't take long for them to rekindle what they had going on in Detroit. And we saw that tonight. And I think it's going to help us a lot. I think Vogel, Bron, all the coaching staff, all the guys who are in charge of these kind of things need to see tonight's game and understand that that is something that can continue to help us in the playoffs as we go forward. Andre Drummond and KCP know one another, and they know one another very well. So that's what I wanted to say as well. The third thing that came to mind in regards to this game is still staying with Andre Drummond. I could tell him to have issues guarding the three-point line with big lineups on the floor with him on the floor. He does not close out to the three-point line quick enough for me. And that's going to be telling in the playoffs. It's going to be very telling in the playoffs because we can't afford to have those type of issues with three-point shooting teams such as Utah. Some of that stuff we got away with tonight, we don't get away with that in the playoffs. We have to continue to be one of the best defensive teams in the NBA in order to get out of the Western Conference. And even though we won tonight's game, we had some serious defensive lapses, and the Utah Jazz should not have been able to force that game into overtime in the first place. Even though we're undermanned, and none of these things are going to matter at all when those guys come back, at the end of the day, if you just want to nitpick and pay attention to the progression of the players on the floor, they have to play better defense, and I think they're capable of playing better defense. I feel great. Trez looked great tonight. He's starting to settle into a way of playing behind Andre Drummond, which is much different than playing behind Marc Gasol, because nobody's telling you to come out of the game when you mess up a defensive assignment to bring Marc Gasol back in the game. However, Trez, you can't make too many mistakes now because Drummond's coming back in. So I think Trez he's going through a little bit of a funk since Drummond has been activated, but I think he snapped out of that in the last game and he continued to play great tonight. I'm hopeful that those two can play with one another because they give us such an incredible dynamic. When one of them sits down, the other one stands up and comes in, and we have one of the best rebounders on the floor at all times, and neither one of them named LeBron James, Anthony Davis. I think that puts us in a position to be better than we would have without that dynamic, to say the least. So I think it's very important that we continue to just keep Trez mentally engaged and feeling good about being a Laker, because he is intricate to keeping our bench elite, and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's the three things I wanted to just say about this game. The Utah Jazz are still shooting the ball lights out. You're going to have to guard the 3-point line dealing with them. Things have not changed in that regard. They were without their two stars tonight. Gobert and Donovan Mitchell are both out. Donovan's out with a real injury. I think they just rested Gobert tonight. But Donovan's injury, I need to check up on that because he went down with something that looked scary last night, but I think the MRI was negative. I think things are looking on the up and up, but we got to see how long he's going to miss because I honestly do not know. But that was a real big blow to the Utah Jazz, losing him, and they lost tonight. And I don't think they would have if he would have been down there, to be completely honest with you. But all in all, we saw some good things out there from the Lakers, beating a playoff team without their guys, but nevertheless a playoff team. And, we should feel really good about ourselves in this one. It was an overtime game. We got production out of guys that we were hoping to see production from. Another thing I want to say that I like about this game, well, not about this game necessarily, but just something, a dynamic that's on our team that I really, really appreciate is Alex Caruso's jumping ability. And I know it's like, what? But like Alex Caruso dunks on your head in situations where you don't expect him to explode. He explodes, and he'll get you 2 points holding the rim. Like, he will grab that thing. It is a real luxury to have a guy like Alex Caruso, whose 3-point shot is now starting to come around, who doesn't have an ego in terms of, now I'm playing better, you need to get me more minutes, sit KCP down, sit West down, don't play Ben because I need to be out there. He just comes out there, does what he needs to do, unassuming, sits back down, and he's just become a real consummate pro for our team. And as somebody who's had a humble beginning, coming from the G League, tearing it up, working his way through the ranks, being on a bad Laker team, working his way into a real role on a championship team, and then helping win a championship with a solidified role on a championship team, you have to give credit where credit is due. Alex Caruso is a fantastic Los Angeles Laker, and I'm happy to have him here. And, it's one of those situations where it's like sometimes when he's doing his thing, you're like, okay, you expect him to lay the ball up. No, he explodes. He will dunk on your head, and he'll do it in phenomenal fashion. It's just a luxury to have him out there. He could play the 2, he could play the 1, and as his 3-point shot is starting to come around, the rest of his game is great because we know he's a fantastic defender. We know he's really good at passing the rock. We know he's not afraid to get to the line and shoot free throws and all that. Obviously, I just said he jumps off the floor. You know that. So now that his 3 is starting to come around and he's starting to get more confident in hitting open threes because they're going to be there, look out, because this is somebody who could take the next step in his career, and I'm super excited that he's here. So I just wanted to say that about Alex Caruso. He helped us a lot tonight as well. So yeah, that's the main thing, man. That's the main thing. I'm looking forward to seeing Dre get in better shape. He's still working his way back into shape. He's not quite himself yet. We were very happy with what we saw tonight, but it gets better. It gets a lot better. So I'm looking forward to seeing him kind of shed some of them pounds as we get closer to the playoffs. Start to lean, get a little leaner, get a little muscular, get a little more muscle on him, and continue to do what it is that he did tonight because he bullied some people, and I'm sure he enjoyed not having to deal with Rudy Gobert out there tonight, or Derek Favors for that matter. So, yeah, man, that's what I got to say. It's a great one, man. Overtime to win a game in that fashion. Schroeder played great. Drummond played great. Kuzma did some good things. Even though he let Ilya Silva block the crap out of him, went down bad with that one. But overall, he played a pretty good game. And yeah, it was a lot to like there. And some things we need to work on defensively. So that's what I got. My name is BDF44. Thank you guys for watching. I'm out.